This tutorial is about tips that are hidden from normal view and would be missed if you didn't know that they were there. And starting with number 1. So that's automatic speed. This is really helpful when you're editing a clip recorded at 120 frames per second that you want to have slow motion. You could put this in a 30 frame per second timeline and then adjust the 120 frame clip to show at quarter of the speed. And so this effect will play the 120 frame per second clip in slow motion. And this is 120 frame per second video, and it's shown with QuickTime's inspector here at 120 frames. Now in Final Cut, I've dragged a portion of that into a new project and set that project to 30 frames per second. And of course Final Cut sets that to run at 30 frames per second. And now with the Option key down, I've created a copy of that and set it to automatic speed. Now playing the two clips, the first is at normal speed in the 30 frame per second timeline, and the second clip is automatically slowed down to 25% of that speed. But it's only using original frames that were recorded on the camera, not generated frames that are created by Final Cut. You'll see more about those in the next tip, which is Optical Flow. Following on from the speed changes, let's look at Optical Flow, which is one method for Final Cut Pro to smooth the changes in slowed down clips where the original frames are not available. So just consider this. If your camera filmed at 120 frames per second, as you saw on the last tip, and then when you play that, Final Cut's got an actual frame that was filmed by the camera for it to play in slow motion. But if your camera filmed at the normal 30 frame per second, to slow that footage in Final Cut to the same 25% speed, new frames need to be created to substitute for those missing frames. So let me explain it mathematically. 10 seconds of footage filmed at 30 frames per second will give you 300 frames of video. If you want to slow that to 25%, Final Cut needs 1200 frames of video. So where does it get the extra 900 frames? If you don't intervene, it'll duplicate the 300 real frames to fill the gaps. Sounds reasonable, but what actually happens is that each frame is played 4 times, so the video appears to be jumpy. And Final Cut has 2 solutions. These are called frame blending and optical flow. The optical flow is the best for footage slowed down at 25%. And simply speaking, this creates new frames with artificial intelligence. And the results are quite good. I'll use the same waterfall video and slow it down to 25%. First I've played it with no alterations. Notice how the bushes on the side of the clip are really jumpy. Now I'll add optical flow and play again. It's still a bit jumpy, but nowhere near as much. Of course, if you'd filmed at 120 frames per second, as we saw in the last tip, then that jumpiness would not be there at all. Incidentally, as you're no doubt asking, the frame blending solution is for footage slowed down, say 50%, but no more. What it does is similar to a dissolve transition that blends between the missing frames to smooth out those jumps as much as possible, but not perfectly, of course.